of Sports Choice Plus. I'm bringing you a very special NBA update minute. We're going to be diving into the end of the NBA season, into the early part of next season. When you're looking at it, the Oklahoma City Thunder did win in 7 games. They are the NBA Finals champions. They did beat the Indiana Pacers in a toughly contested series. Overall, on the bright side, it was 7 games. We got to see a competitive game. Not as close as we wanted to, obviously with Tyrese Halliburton taking an injury in the first couple of minutes of the first quarter. It left a lot to be desired, but I will say this. Indiana Pacers put up a good fight. They put up a good series. That's all we could ask for. So did Oklahoma City. As we move forward, the obvious Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, when you look at the MVP of the Western Conference Finals, regular season MVP, NBA Finals MVP, scoring championship, as far as the top scorer in the NBA, he did a lot. Let's just face it, he did a lot. When you're thinking about overall, the season that he had, it's second to none. When you think of like Michael Jordan, when you think of like LeBron, his numbers are up there with them, and his accomplishments for this season are as well. The Oklahoma City Thunder have a plethora of picks. Going into this offseason, they have multiple first-round picks. They have an embarrassment of riches as far as draft picks over the next couple of years. You've got Jalen Williams. You got Chet Holmgren. You've got a number of different guys on your roster and eventually they will need to be getting paid. So this is the fun part about Oklahoma City and just looking at what their roster looks like because they're in the driver's seat. Potential dynasty. If they need to trade these picks away, they can get a veteran in. They can get a solid shooter. They can get anything you think of with multiple first-round picks. Going into next season, you're asking yourself, who's going to come in looking like a contender next season? Well, I just want to start with the Indiana Pacers. Because of Tyrese Halliburton's injury, there's going to be a large question possibly on what this team does, renegotiating contracts, signing people. And you got to think of this, just being straightforward. Miles Turner may end up being a guy that you do not re-sign because Tyrese Halliburton won't be back next season in the early parts. Let's face it, Indiana is going to have to face, for the most part, the year without Tyrese Halliburton because of his injury, the non-contact Achilles injury. And you got to ask yourself, will this team have the same type of run possibly next season? I don't see this team having the same type of run next season. I think this was the year that if they were going to win it, they were going to win it. I think that currently constructed, they're going to have to make moves if they want to be competitive next season. There were several holes on the roster that we saw. There were several holes on the bench that we saw. So addressing those needs in the offseason would be great, but just being real, how much are you really going to invest if you know this is going to be a season without Tyrese Halliburton? And it usually takes about a year and a half for a person to come back from Achilles injury and to be themselves. Another thing we want to address is the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics lost Jason Tatum to an Achilles injury. That also has to ask itself, will the Boston Celtics put their roster above the second apron to keep a team together that they know Jason Tatum is not going to be on there next season? Jason Tatum is going to miss probably a year. With the way that he plays, with his size, with everything, with his athletic ability, it's going to take him about a year and a half to get back as well. So I don't see the Boston Celtics being a contender next season, and it's because of obvious reasons. When you take away one of the stars off of a team and the rest of the guys aren't that quality of star, it is what it is. As good as Jaylen Brown is great, but he's not Jason Tatum. He's not 6'8". He's not somebody that can play above the rim. He's not somebody that can create his own shot consistently and make everybody else get better by being involved. When he's focused on in the offense, as we saw, he doesn't get the same lift. He doesn't get the same backdoor cuts. He doesn't get the same offensive energy as Jason Tatum gives. The Celtics have a choice to make, and they have to trade away either players like Porzingis. They have to consider trading Holiday. They have to consider trading White. They have to consider making a trade because their salary cap is too high. And because they're not challenging for a title, I doubt that they pay that amount of money to keep that. One of the things that are on the rise in the East, you have to look at the Orlando Magic. Yes, they made a big trade. Yes, they do have Desmond Bain. Yes, they gave up multiple first round picks, but the Magic are done patiently waiting. I think they're climbing to the East hierarchy at number one. I think that within the next 6 months or so, you could see the Orlando Magic challenging the number one seed in the East. Because their transition, they got off Caltavius Caldwell Pope's contract, which was a bad contract, and they got somebody in there that's going to give you another 18-plus point score. Desmond Bain is going to give you at least 18 points. He's going to play defense as well. He's going to be one of those Iron Men that continuously plays week after week. Again, PB5 and Franz Wagner, they're going to have to get in better shape to avoid these injuries. You also have Jalen Suggs sharing the court with these guys. They have a solidified five. And when you think about them having a center that's pretty good, and now it's just time to work on the bench. This offseason, work on the bench. If you have something that you want to do and you've seen that, okay, that second unit for Orlando is going to make or break them because they have to have guys that can come in and score. You want to get guys that can be electric off the bench, and you don't have to have all of them be point guards either. PB5 has to find time to rest, and Wagner as well. They can't be on the court at all times. You have to be able to shift and have one on the bench and let one breathe, if you will. And I think that Orlando's stars are going to be stars next season. I think that if they can get a healthy season in and they can play, I think that not only will the three-point percentage go up, them winning will go up, and they'll be an actual playoff threat. Getting teams to buy into systems and buy into new players, that's the hard part. But I feel like once Desmond Bain gets comfortable, once he gets around those guys, it's just going to breed more positive work ethic between the crews. And they're going to blend well. One thing that we do want to be lookout on for next season is the Detroit Pistons. We saw the Detroit Pistons this season. We saw exactly what the Detroit Pistons could be, what they look like. I think that, Cade Cunningham blossoming into what we saw and seeing him be better than what we expected is going to be good for them. I like the fact that it's so much in Detroit that you could work with. When you look at one of the Thompson brothers, he's literally is budding as a star. Jalen Duren is budding. Jaden Ivey as well. You've got guys that are coming into their own. They just haven't played enough basketball together to really blend and gel. You saw as they played the Knicks, they were a little outmatched because the Knicks have a top-heavy team, and they didn't have that force offensively to combat with them. They had it defensively, but the Knicks had a little bit more offense than the Pistons had offensively. From the standpoint, you're going to need a guy that can swing the rock and possibly play the three position for the Detroit Pistons. Pistons have a lot of good athletes. They need better shooting. So it can't be Cade Cunningham against five people on the Knicks. It can't be Cade Cunningham because NBA defenses are too good. And if you have a guy that's struggling to shoot, you got to have somebody that can help him out. You have to have somebody that can not only come to his defense, but somebody that can put the rock on the floor, help create for others. The blueprint of what we're seeing for NBA teams is getting a lot of good athletes together and getting shooters to surround them. So Detroit is no different. They have plenty of different athletes, that guys that have great athletic ability. They can dunk out the gym. They can jump out the water. But they have to be able to hit shots. You got to be able to hit open shots. And what caused the Pacers to lose the series? Missed three-pointers. What caused Oklahoma City to struggle to close out Indiana? Missed three-pointers. So when teams are shooting high clips from three, and I'm talking 20-plus more threes a game, you got to hit at least half those if you want a chance to be consistent in the NBA. Overall, a lot of these teams that I've named already are in a good space, but they can do better. One of the teams that we're going to talk about next is a team that needs to find a head coach. I'm talking about the New York Knicks, who fired Tom Thibodeau, and there's little question marks because you don't really know why. Why move on from Thibs if you don't have an actual replacement that you know and trust? Why put somebody in a position where they're going to have to go through all these different coaching hires when you have a good coach there? All you need to do is relinquish some of those offensive duties to another coach on the staff and slide down that production to them so they can worry about the offense. Open up the playbook a little bit more. I wasn't a fan of them firing Tibbs after he got them not only to the Eastern Conference playoffs, but it looks like he finally got through to his players and they were finally starting to grow. Again, Jalen Brunson is one of those guys that as soon as he gets hot, he ignites everybody else. Karl Anthony Towns as well. When he chooses to go in the paint and play like a center or a power forward, it's night and day. Yes, he wants to shoot threes. Yes, he has the ability to shoot threes, but when he's not hitting threes, it's bad. It's bad. Let's face it. He's not rebounding as efficient. He's not giving his team second chance opportunities. He's not getting the ones off the glass and putting them back up for easy opportunities. Having him and Mitchell Robinson, I would have thought that you would have had more rebounds per game. Having two 7-footers in the game in the playoffs and being able to dominate with those wingspans and being able to box out and to use your length and to use your girth to box out. I would have thought they had more, but the Knicks were disappointing in that fashion. I think the Knicks need to work on their bench a little bit. I know that they do have a second round draft pick this year, but they need to, in free agency, somehow fill out that bench a little bit more. And I don't know, whoever the head coach is going to have their work together cut out for them because it's a tough road. You got to win, or either you're going to be fired. That's just the way it is in New York. It's just tough working for James Dolan. I think one of the surprises over the weekend, we did see the Houston Rockets make a trade with the Phoenix Suns, and they got rid of Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. When you look at this team right now, and you got to ask yourself, Ime Udoka, do you have currently what you need in order to win? You have all these small forwards. You added Kevin Durant to the mix. You still got Sengun. You still got the Thompson brother. And you got to ask yourself, what are you really going to do with this crew? Fred VanVleet is a pretty good point guard, but he's up in his 30s. You got to ask yourself, who are you going to pair with this group to help them? Because you're going to have to bring some more pieces in. You need to find some veteran leadership that can also play. You know, you got Steven Adams, you brought him back on a mega deal, and that was a large deal that you gave a guy that's not really playing in the regular season to that many games. But you got to think, though, his impact on the glass is, I would consider starting him at this point. At this point, starting him with Sengun, him at the center position and Sengun at the power forward position to make that combination where they can rebound and do some things, and having Kevin Durant as your 3 and then figuring out your 1 and 2 position as you go. Houston, I like the overall team, but they need some veteran shooting off the bench. They're going to need guys that can knock down shots, guys not named Kevin Durant, because you can't just put all your chips on Kevin Durant. His health, as far as him finishing the season, is not always the best. He struggled with late season injuries and struggled during season injuries. So you got to think about this. Can the Houston Rockets finish like they finished last year with Kevin Durant missing 10 games at a time, or 5 games at a time, or 6 games at a time? Can they keep that momentum without him there? We don't know. That remains to be seen. And one of the biggest disappointments, and I think this is tough, but Cleveland Cavaliers going 64-18. I expected so much more. They talked about not having Darius Garland there, but I also had to believe that having Donovan Mitchell there, having your backups at almost every other position there, you should have still did more. But it's I don't know. It's tough. It's when you get to a point, Cleveland has to figure out what's the missing piece. You've got all these guys that do one thing well, whether it be rebound well, whether it be box out and get assists well. You've got all these different things, but it doesn't bode well when they're missing in action. Darius Garland for the last 2 seasons has let the Cleveland Cavaliers down. As good as he wants to be, as good as he says he is, if you're not available during playoff time, how great are you? Donovan Mitchell put up a hell of a fight. Let's face it, he did. And there was sometimes where he was just by himself against the Pacers. And they were blown off the court. I mean, you had Hunter there. You had Max there. You had a full bench possibly. They were missing 2 or 3 starters at a time. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are good enough to have those guys coming off the bench. Cleveland Cavaliers literally had 10 guys. They could go 10 deep. But the Pacers outran them out the gym. The Pacers forced them to play a different pace that they didn't want to play. The Pacers didn't necessarily need a half-court offense. They were just running, getting the rebound running, getting the rebound running, getting the rebound running. And all of a sudden, you're up by 18 points. Now you're up by 25 points. And now the Cleveland Cavaliers, you catch your breath, you're like, what the hell happened? That's one of them things that Cleveland has to work on this offseason. If Darius Garland is your guy, then figure out a way to keep him healthy. Figure out a way to do this. But I mean, I don't know. So it's tough. It's tough. It's really tough. Um, you got a couple other different. This is interesting. You got a couple other Denver. Where does Denver go? Just looking down the list of teams, where does Denver go? You know, a severely injured Aaron Gordon tried to help him late, had a severe hamstring injury. Nikola Jokic, Joker, he's in a situation where he has to ask himself, does he want to be a part of a rebuild? Is Denver going to hit the rebuild button, or are they going to get rid of Jamal Murray? What's going to happen? You know, the Denver Nuggets championship window has effectively closed before our eyes. Yes, they were able to win a championship with Mike Malone, but you got to ask yourself, how much more could they have taken a bite out the apple if they just brought some of those pieces back? If they had some of those complementary pieces that worked in Denver together with Jokic and Murray and Gordon, how much more easy would it have been to possibly repeat? You know, there's something to be said about this. When teams want to be cheap and they don't want to really do stuff, it's tough. You know, I like the addition of Russell Westbrook and what he was able to do. Like it, love it, hate it, good Westbrook, bad Westbrook, whatever it is. Michael Porter Jr. needs to figure out what's going to be his solution, because I feel like they're going to do better trading him. Because Michael Porter seems like a diva at times. At times he can give you 20. At times he can give you 3. At times he can give you 10 rebounds. At times he can give you 2. At times he can give you assists. He can give you great play and play like a power forward. At times he doesn't want to be on the floor. So again, they're all NBA professionals. What is Denver going to do? We don't know the direction yet, but hey, they have a hell of a chance to rebuild without folding and tearing everything down. Now, speaking of tearing everything down, Minnesota Timberwolves. Not only did the Minnesota Timberwolves have multiple picks in this year's draft, they have a pretty solid roster that you can trade a couple pieces off of. I think that they have options for Julius Randle and Naz Reid next season, so that's going to be up in the air. But I strongly suggest them getting rid of Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert just needs to go. Not trying to be funny, not trying to be disrespectful. His ass needs to go. At this point in time, what does Rudy Gobert give you in a center? Where does Rudy Gobert give you? You know, in the finals, as far as the Western Conference Finals, he didn't give you no offense. He was a liability on defense, and he's a defensive player of the year for so many years. And you got to ask yourself, he doesn't really have a skill set on offense. He doesn't really have something that he can give you. So now we're looking at each other like, okay, why is he in the game? He's a free throw liability. You can't put him at the free throw line. So you just got to ask yourself, what's the next move for him? You know, you got Julius Randle, who at times was hot, at times got cold. So it's making me think, okay, was it an offensive thing? Was it a spacing thing? Was it a thing of him not being comfortable? Was he hurt? You have to answer those things. And Naz Reid is a better option at center to start over anything that they got. And that's including the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. And you just ask yourself, what's going to be next for them? Having a young Ant Edwards on the deal that you currently have him on. And you've got so many different, like DiVincenzo. You've got so many different pieces on this team. Minnesota should be primed to give everybody hell in the West next season. You know the team that you are. You know how you play well. You know how if you feed Ant-Man and get him involved early and make sure this is what it is, you're going to be a buzzsaw in the West. Playing teams that are outmatched, playing teams that aren't athletic as you, you should be winning almost every game every night. And that's as good as Minnesota is. I think they're the second best team in the West currently. They did lose in the Western Conference Finals, but it's just looking at them just, okay, this is what this is. So, I don't know. It's tough. It's very tough. I think a lot of these teams have stuff on their plate. Oh, Lakers. Los Angeles Lakers. How could I forget about the Lakers? Luka's in L.A. Luka Doncic. You got LeBron. And you got AR-15. Everybody else is expendable. Gabe Vincent's expendable. Rui Hotch is expendable. Max Kleber is expendable. All these guys are expendable. This roster, currently as it is bottom trash. Bottom part of it's trash. You need a true center in there. You need a true power forward in there. That's just being honest with you. You need more rebounding, more guys that can shoot as well. You know, the Lakers may have to go bargain shopping because of the salary caps that they have on there. Bronny James may have to play a little bit more, and they're going to have to figure some stuff out because the mid-level exception is available for them. They just have to use a couple of different exceptions to get guys in there that can be serviceable weapons. Having Luka and LeBron is the easy part. Surround them with guys that can shoot. Surround them with guys that can play defense. JJ Redick as a coach is very smart. He has struck me as somebody that comes up with good plays, that can explain stuff to guys. If Luka comes in shape, we'll see what's different. So some of these teams are destined for greatness. It's just a question. So, I think from a standpoint, they're in a perfect condition to possibly get back to the finals next season. Not having Luka's not a bad thing. You can add a Cooper Flag. You're going to at some point get Kyrie back. If Anthony Davis can stay healthy, you got three bigs that are pretty good. If you look at possibly bringing in a Dennis Schroeder, possibly bringing in a Malcolm Brogdon, or possibly bringing in a Chris Paul as a free agent to fill the void till Kyrie gets back, I think that's a good thing. Having backup point guards that can facilitate to get your bigs involved is great. Dallas has shooting. They got Klay Thompson Jr. They've got a number of different guys that can shoot. So it's just making sure they have, like, they got PJ. They have a number of different guys that can shoot and get their own shot, but you just got to be able to facilitate. Getting a true point guard in there to run the show till Kyrie gets back, till he gets healthy, and making sure that you have, your full threat of weapons. I don't see anything wrong with it. Where is he reading from? What do you mean? Where is he reading from? Who? But you got different free agency options. Their best bet is going to be using their money in free agency. There are trade exceptions as well. So, but we're going to tap back in later on tonight. I'm going to go live later on tonight. We're going to talk NBA basketball. We're also going to talk a little bit of NFL hoops. But throughout the season, I want you all to tap in. It's been a great NBA season. Congratulations once again to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have won the NBA title. And congratulations to Indiana as well, getting to the finals. But it's going to be a lot, folks. It's going to be a lot. This offseason is going to be pretty action-packed. The draft is coming up this next week. And it could be a lot of trades. It could be a lot of stuff that's going on. And stay here for Sports Choice Plus. All the updates, all the breakdowns. We'll have all the information, all right? Until then, my friends, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the subscription button. Make sure you're also tapped in. And we will see you on the next episode. We're out.